You're listening to the Really Very Crunchy podcast with your hosts, Emily
and Jason. Well, Emily, we just had a fun trip.
Just got back from St. Louis.
Yeah, and Nashville. Well,
that was
Columbia, Tennessee.
Yeah, right outside of Nashville. That was kind of a whim of a trip.
Yeah, we went to St. Louis just to kind of do a bunch of different things. We'll put out a video on it because I know you want that.
It's a vlog.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I got so many messages from people saying, tell us what you do because I'm going there in a month or I'm going there next week. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
What, St. Louis?
Yeah.
We posted about going to St. Louis?
Yeah, I shared in my Instagram story. So it said, what should we do?
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot.
All the answers were the same. So
the City Museum.
We did it.
We did do that. Our children also developed a love for baseball.
It's so precious. They already liked it.
Yeah.
Because we play it in our front yard.
Yeah.
Modified rules.
You and I were both baseball players.
Actually. I mean.
So.
Softball.
It's in the blood.
Middle school level.
I mean, okay. Same rules, basically.
But I was the star hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to Jason and we were looking up the contracts for each player, like how much they get
as they
paid
came up to the
as
plate.
they came up to bat.
Yeah.
So like there's this guy who has a $78 million contract for 4 years.
Just
$78 million. Okay, you better be
crazy.
hitting a home run every single time in my eyes, right?
No.
And Jason's like, no, I mean, it's an average. It all evens out. And I'm like, what? He's making
unless it doesn't,
$78 million
and then you
over
get traded.
4 years?
Yeah.
What in the world? We're in the wrong field. Literally.
Okay, it takes a certain skill to get there. Well, it's funny. You're like, they should be hitting home runs every single time. But the thing is, they're also paying that pitcher millions of dollars so that guy can't hit.
I understand.
So it's like,
all I'm saying
level.
is the last year I played softball, I hit 7 home runs and 3 grand slams.
You should have at least gotten $1 million.
So
for 1 year.
I mean, I don't even know if I got a trophy. I'm pretty sure it was just a team trophy. Backyard Burgers.
Oh, wow. Nice sponsor.
I played for the Backyard Burgers.
Sponsor of today's episode, Backyard Burgers.
I got you guys 3 grand slams. I mean, how rare is that?
That's pretty great.
I know.
Wow.
I was a good hitter.
Do they shorten the field in middle school? I'm not asking for...
Are you being rude?
You're a middle school girl. So if you had obviously, I'm just curious. We're looking at like 350 to 400 feet at center field for a regular.
I don't know. I'm sure it's shortened. I'm sure.
Not to put
But I will say I was
not mean
a terrible fielder. Couldn't even... I played catcher some, third baseman some, shortstop some. They just kind of moved me around. But as catcher, I couldn't even make the throw to second base.
That's a tough throw.
How embarrassing.
No, that's a tough throw. They don't even get it right in the MLB sometimes. Okay. I mean, it's a hard throw.
Thing over your face.
You got a mask over your face. You're jumping from a squat to throw it to second base as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because the guy's stealing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I played third base and left field. That's where I went between those.
Were you a star hitter?
I was probably a number. I never hit a home run, but I played.
I mean, you played in high school. So it's different.
But I would get it. I was probably a number 3 or 4 hitter out of the team. Yeah. And, because I was really good at like getting it over the second baseman's head and then just getting a single. I could get on base.
Right.
And I got hit a lot. Not on purpose, I don't think. For some reason, I was like a magnet to the ball.
When you were
batting.
Oh, yeah. I
kind
of loved getting hit because the girls can't throw that hard.
Yeah,
so, they can as they get older.
High school baseball, you get hit.
Yeah, it hurts.
You got a mark the next day.
A middle school girl softball isn't really hurting, and it's sort of
hard. It still hurts.
I've
never been hit by a middle school girl. So.
You have the excuse. No, but you've been pickpocketed by one. But you get the pressures off. There's once you get hit, it's like, oh.
Yeah. I never felt pressure at the plate, and I think that's why I was an okay hitter. Like, I didn't care. I never thought about like, oh, am I going to strike out? Or, oh, am I going to hit it? It's like, well, let's hit what you can hit. Don't swing at the really fast ones.
I never thought that I was going to strike out. It was like, is this going to be the one?
See, I never thought about it. I was like, I got to get on base. Yeah, and I did. So, anyway, we took our kids to a Cardinals game, and they loved it. It solidified their love of baseball. And maybe they'll help us retire one day when they make $74 million in 4 years.
We were talking about how baseball is the perfect game for someone who has OCD.
Yeah.
We kept seeing like the batters would unstrap their gloves.
They have all these rituals.
Back, and our older son leans that way. He has a few tendencies. We're watching him. Like, I'm being serious. I'm not saying it as a joke. Like, oh, I'm so OCD. Like, I know some people get offended about that. No, like, we're actually slightly concerned that he does. But baseball would be the perfect game for him because he can do all his little things and it doesn't seem strange.
And it serves his batting average. So, yeah. And
he's good at it.
Yeah. No, he's really good at baseball.
Yeah. I mean, we play with a wool dryer ball in our front yard, but...
Yeah. Talking about siblings today. Our kids are siblings.
Most brothers are.
Yeah. What I'm curious about is at what point are they supposed to be? Is there supposed to be some major sibling rivalry? Is it too early at 5 and 7?
No, I think that seems like prime time.
Okay, because it's pretty intense.
It's quite intense in our home right now.
It's happening right now. I hear it.
I can hear them
in the living room. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to work it out. I think that's going to be fine. I've heard worse, so we're going to see how this plays out over the next few minutes.
But Jason and I on this trip, there were points that were totally miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, just utterly the worst.
Right.
Why did we leave home? I don't know.
That is a question that pops into my head just about every time we travel, and I love traveling.
So... I mean, we went on that big trip in the pop-up last year. We spent over a month in a pop-up camper.
Like, what in the heck were you thinking?
And you, before that, were like, let's sell our house and move back into an RV. What are we doing?
It'd be great.
We haven't had this, like, we're working for ourselves.
We met a full-timer.
What are we doing?
A full-time family. We've met several of them that were
They had a house, though, that they could retreat to. Everyone we've met that's full-time has a house, too.
Right. That would have to be the case.
So
anyway,
so then after the trip, you were like, no way. That was the worst.
We immediately sold the pop-up.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm never going to live in an RV with our children.
Yeah. The problem is that is such a confined space. I feel like a bigger RV would be better.
I feel like some families deal with it. Like, they manage.
I think a boy-girl situation.
Yeah.
Where they're not the same gender, not the same.
I mean, there's still rivalries, but
sure, but it's not as intense. Like, they don't want the same toy or
usually.
Yeah. So, and sometimes we'll buy toys for our kids as like a shared thing. Mm-hmm. Terrible idea, apparently. Yeah. There's not a lot of like ownership in our home.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get to that later. But anyway, so at points on our trip, we're like, what in the world? Mm-hmm. Why can't they just get along?
Right. And, well, they do. So here's the thing. They can go 3 hours playing the same game. But if one of them, and loving it,
right.
and one little thing perturbs one of them, and it's as though they have grown up enemies in different armies. Mm-hmm. Like, they are ready to kill each other.
They will physically
over nothing.
I know.
Like this morning, Alder, he just threw a rag on the ground. Like, he spilled something and he was cleaning it up himself. Awesome. 5-year-old. I feel like that's a huge win. That's amazing. And then he tossed it onto the floor in the laundry room. Not normal thing to do. And then our older one didn't like where it was thrown and said, "Why are you such a dumb butt?"
Where did he learn that? Anyway,
I don't know. I've never called him a dumb butt. I mean, he's 7. He's around other kids.
It's a lot better than what we heard on the playground on Sunday.
Oh my goodness.
This child was just yelling the F word and the B word and all the things, and our kids didn't pick up on it,
I think he was a year younger
than older. Yeah, he looked to be about 4 years old.
Yeah. And people wonder why don't you want to send your kid to public school? His classmates are yelling the F word. Well, your son's going to learn it eventually, not in kindergarten.
Right.
I guess he would.
But he did learn dumb butt. So
I'll take dumb butt over the alternative that I heard on that. I was blushing by that child. No, my fear in that moment was just like, man, is that the word we're going to have to like teach Alder not to shout out when he gets mad?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Emily, I'd love to take a moment and talk about today's sponsor, Wrinkle, the countertop sidekick that takes your food scraps and turns it into compost in a single day. Odor? None. Noise? Basically a library. It's pretty phenomenal.
Seriously, you just drop in veggies, dairy, even meat, and let Wrinkle handle the science. Its cultured microbes transform up to 90% of your food waste into nutrient-rich compost in 24 hours. A triple-layer deodorizing filter means zero stink, and at 28 decibels, it's quieter than a whisper. The unit is slim and made for countertops, ideal for apartments, busy parents, anyone short on space. Join 150,000 happy owners who've already leveled up their eco game. Want to check it out? Head to wrinkle.co and enter Crunchy for an extra 10% off whatever promo's running. That's REENCLE.co. Well, one of your hacks for dealing with language, you grew up in a household where language was not tolerated at all. Like even in a
barely
movie,
even spoke English.
If dumb butt
forbidden
was said, it was like
I could say dumb butt.
Really?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Okay, this is a totally different topic, but there were some things that you could just say that would just be like, how in the world are you allowed to say that? And then obviously some of the most mild things, like I could never I could probably call my brother a dumb butt, but I couldn't call him a butthead.
What about idiot?
It just depended.
See, we weren't allowed to say idiot.
Nobody cared that much about idiot, I don't think, or moron.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like moron is underused. I think that's a good one.
There was something I was saying.
Well,
maybe stupid. I can't remember.
All right,
I got
earmuffs
in the mouth as a high schooler.
Earmuffs for the kids. Okay, warning. All right, Are you
being serious? Is it serious?
Yeah, I'm not gonna cuss, but we were never it was the worst thing in the world to say either FREAKING,
sure,
or SUCKS.
Okay,
So, yeah, but here's what's funny. Years later, 20 years later, my mom's making a joke to me, and then she's like, and the butt of the joke is that she says it SUCKS's, and it's like, wait a second. I grew up my whole life.
Yeah, but you're an adult.
Yeah, I guess.
So.
I guess.
I can't say I ever heard your parents say that word, but...
My mom did once, and I remember it, and it shocked me. It was like, well, that's hilarious. But.
Well, anyway, your hack, because your parents were so we're not saying that.
Yeah.
So intense that you're just don't acknowledge it, don't draw attention to it, don't.
Right.
And I think that has served us so far.
I lie to our kids, too.
What?
I lie to them. If they hear a word, or let's just say SUCKS, okay, if they hear that, maybe I said it or somebody else said it, and then they say it too, and I'm like, no, trucks, that trucks, look at that trucks, those trucks over there, and then it somehow shifts in a way to where they forget it.
Yeah, I've heard you do that actually.
That's how I usually deal with a word that gets.
Yeah, but you have said let's just not make a big deal out of it. Don't say anything. They won't notice.
Yeah,
if
like
there's like a show.
for instance,
what movie was it that we were?
It was The Iron Giant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a cartoon. I had never seen it, so I watched it with the boys, and it's PG, has a couple of mild curse words in it, which was unexpected. But like, I just didn't. When I was a kid, my parents would like point it out and say, "We're skipping that. Don't say that. Whatever." And I'm like, "Ooh." And I'd go into the bathroom and I'd say all the words to myself over and over and over. D, 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 B, 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 like whatever. Yeah. But like, so the hack is I have not.
Don't point it out.
Not that it happens often, but don't point it out. And it's like, they don't even know that they heard it. It was just like the kid on the playground. There's something inside of me that's like, that wanted to go over to Oaks and who was right next to the kid and be like, Oaks, you hear what he's saying? Mm-hmm. Don't you ever say that.
Right.
And then he would like, that would have put it in his mind. We didn't say anything to him. He had no idea this kid's running around saying the F word.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it, they wouldn't ever pick it up. It's not foolproof.
Yeah.
But it's
sure, they picked up the word stupid somehow, and then that. But then
that's their curse word.
I know, but I made the mistake of making a big deal out of it. First, I was like, fine, you can say stupid. That's fine.
But then they just use
it.
But
now they just like use it all the time on each other. And I'm like, no, we can't call other people that.
But you're doing
like
pretty
if you stub
good.
Your toe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like stupid door.
It gets that curse word. Like there's actually science that says like, and I'm not advocating for cursing or whatever, but like there's science that it actually hurts less. Like if you stub your toe and you like say the worst word you can think of, it actually makes your pain less. Again, I don't know if that's true.
Thank you for the science lesson, Jason.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true, and I don't practice it when I try not to. I usually like cut it off.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so they get that effect out of stupid like that.
Okay. Well, what happened when he called him a dumb butt?
Well, this time through proper teaching, instead of hitting him, he came to me and he said, "Hey."
Not you hitting him, the other brother hitting him.
Correct. No. Instead of hitting him, I said, "Go to your room." No. Instead of him hitting him for being called a dumb butt, he came to me and he said, "Hey, Oaks called me a dumb butt." And I'm not like trying to encourage tattling, but at the same time, I prefer it over him just getting into a fist fight.
We have an issue with fist fights right now.
My goodness.
So,
parenting's so much fun. It's like being the warden over a prison.
You have to give kids some sort of power, though. Like they have to have an action to do instead of hitting. Which
has come to me, and I then actually have to deal with it. I can't then just say, well, get over it. Well, this is what I'm not hitting him. Do something.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And then, of course, I do something. I'm doing air quotes. We'll sit on the stairs for a few minutes. Why sit there and talk to him? Why? Why are you calling him a dumb butt? Mm-hmm. You know it's going to make him mad. You know it makes him want to hit you.
That's why he does it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Jason and I both have siblings. I have 3 brothers. One older brother who's 3 years older than me. 2 younger brothers that are 9 years and 11 years younger than me. So the dynamic was a little different.
Well, it's all over the place.
Yeah, I annoyed my older brother, but when we were little, we didn't really fight like this. We started fighting when we were about, like, I was maybe 7 or 8, and he was.
So 7 seems to be that age where it's like, okay, this is where we start fighting. Like your personality is really starting to develop, I guess.
Yeah.
And
things annoy you.
Yeah.
Things, Mm-hmm. So he and I were physical. Like I started growing out my nails so I could scratch him and make him bleed when he would come at me. I mean, he would throw me against a wall.
Yeah.
But not when my parents were home.
Right.
So they're like,
we did grow up in the 90s.
Finally old enough to.
So we were both. We were always home by ourselves. Parents were working. Hey, you're 3 now. You're good, right? You can make grilled cheese, can't you?
There aren't laws in Kentucky about leaving kids home alone. There's not an age.
Well, we should take advantage of that.
So as long as a kid can technically take care of themselves, it's kosher.
What does that mean, though?
Yeah,
take care of yourself.
I distinctly.
Does that just mean in the law, don't die? Like,
there was a yard next to our yard that was about an acre, so it looked like this nice big yard, but we weren't allowed to play in it.
Yeah,
because the lady was scared that we would get hurt on her yard. Anyway,
mad.
So our yard wasn't very big, but I distinctly remember my brother chasing me with a knife. And I hesitated to run through that yard.
See, that's a little extreme. I don't think that's normal.
I don't think he would have done anything.
Yeah.
He was just trying to scare me.
Yeah, I still don't think that's normal. Even in the 90s. I mean, me and my siblings fought quite a bit. Never chased with a knife.
Well, I don't know. Then he learned me, and he started using my people-pleasing thing. So instead of me annoying him, he would be like, Emily, you know what? You make the best peanut butter and honey sandwiches. I have never had a peanut butter and honey sandwich that's better than yours. Could you make me one of those? Building
you up and getting what he wants. Genius.
Instead of, I'd want to hang out with him and his friends. He'd just make me their little servant. And I would do it in hopes that they would think I was cool. Yeah.
Well, see, you liked it. Or at least you told yourself you liked it.
Yeah. Well, so then my little brothers, I didn't really fight with them because they were so much younger than me.
Yeah.
They annoyed me sometimes, but I would just if they were annoying me, I'd just sit on the couch and put my feet out.
Mm-hmm.
And if they tried to run towards me, they'd just run into my feet. And
yeah. Well, you have the curse of sort of being the middle child, but not quite being the middle child. It's there's 2 middle children,
mm-hmm.
right? The advantage of being the youngest is that for a certain amount of time, you get to be the only child.
Right.
And I got 4 years, almost my entire high school, I was the only child. From late middle school to all the way through high school, I was an only child. My brother and sister are both off to college or out on their own.
Now, you didn't really fight with your older siblings. They just picked on you. You didn't really fight, right?
I annoyed the heck out of them, though. If they're listening, they will. Yes, we fought. Yes, they picked on me. Yes, I annoyed the fire out of them on purpose.
You have a habit of doing that.
No, I mean, listen. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so funny because Alder is a miniature you.
Yeah, he is.
And you see it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like...
I see every bit of it.
He intentionally annoys everyone in this family.
As he grows, I learn more and more about myself than I ever thought I would ever know. Not as much with Oaks, some parts of Oaks, but with Alder, it's oh, man, this is what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the version of me without 90s parents,
mm-hmm.
too. And so he has a slightly more leeway than I did. But yeah.
Well, and that's what I've said. I've said maybe we need to be a little more intense because you turned out so great.
More intense? No, I don't think so. Yeah, well, that's a different conversation altogether, too.
But one thing that we talked about is what are the advantages of having a sibling? Because sometimes it feels like both of our children would thrive.
If you asked 10-year-old me, I'd say, not much. Not much at all. None. No advantages. They SUCKS.
So do you think now
I added an S. That doesn't make sense.
So now that you're older, though, you would say you have a pretty decent relationship with your siblings.
Yeah, no, and I think, gosh, as a kid, in certain times, it was honestly like, I hate having siblings at times, not always. And then honestly, things shifted when everybody left home. Really,
when you no longer had siblings.
Really, yeah. And then now we're I think we're all very close. We talk to each other. Man, and I will say this, like I was kind of thinking like what would life have been as an only child throughout my whole childhood versus having siblings. And then my parents, both passed away. My dad 9 years ago, my mom almost a year ago. Going through that process alone, I feel like would have been very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And having my brother and my sister in that time, I mean, gosh, we leaned on each other. And I mean, there's families that aren't like that. There's families whose siblings, I mean, they hate each other into adulthood, and that's really hard.
Or they're great until someone passes.
Sure. Oh, and then, the
money or whatever.
Thankfully, we all grew up poor, and there's no money to fight over. So,
what a blessing!
What a blessing to not have money to fight over. No, I don't. I think if our parents did have money, there would have been no fight. That is such a huge blessing to have had siblings that we've been on the same page through really hard times, and there has been no fight, no issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how much that feels good as an adult. And it makes me think like, wow, I have really great siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Hated them when I was like 8.
Mm-hmm.
They hated me, I'm sure. It was up and down. There were good times and bad times, but
I mean, I'll like talk to my older brother twice a year for an hour or two.
Yeah.
It sounds really bad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And then my younger brothers, one of them was living with my parents, so I got to see him quite a bit more. But he is now a flight attendant off jet setting to the next
adventurous life.
Yeah, and so we, occasionally send each other a video, or I think we're all just busy in different ways and at different times. So,
right.
Like my older brother lives in Oregon, so he's like, I don't know, is it 2 hours behind? I always get so confused. 3 hours?
I think it's right now. I think it's 2 hours.
Yeah. That throws me.
Yeah. What a reason to.
I know.
We talk twice a year. He's 2 hours behind. I mean, what do you expect? He lives in a different time zone. How could you ever think that I would talk to him?
Terrible excuse.
Yeah. Well, so this idea of being we know only children.
Mm-hmm.
And we know people
as adults.
Yeah, and we know people with hundreds of siblings, it seems. No, at least
10.
Yeah, we've seen several.
My mom is one of 9. Well,
and
actually,
my dad was an only child.
One of, if you include her step siblings, one, not step, even half.
Half, yeah.
One of, is it 14?
It's a lot.
So, but she didn't live with all of them at once. She lived with 8 others.
Right.
So, strange. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so what sometimes just for whatever reason, I think because, I mean, we had Oaks for a while without Alder, which it's 2.5 years. It felt like a very long time.
I know, it did.
Because I remember thinking, like, before Alder was born, like, how sad it would be to not have our full attention on Oaks. And, of course, things that changed whenever Alder came in. And it's like, oh, wow, it's great. It fits. It's cool. We love the dynamic, except when they're fighting.
Well, the thing is, so many people say, like, oh, have one close in age. They'll have a built-in friend.
That's true. They also have a built-in enemy.
Right.
It's both. It is certainly both.
And like their best buddy right now is an only child.
Yeah.
And our older son is always like, I don't know why he would ever want a brother because this is miserable,
Until they're playing in harmony.
Yeah.
And then it's like, they're best friends.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So, I think there are advantages of having an only child or being an only child.
I can see some kids really thrive because they get
all the
attention. And when you do things, it's probably more enjoyable. Like they take a trip to St. Louis. Everything's cool. Like nobody's fighting because if a child has a need or a want, you can address it and then move on. And it's not this competition. There's not just like when you go out to eat, who's sitting where and what, it's just more peaceful.
There's no compromises with the other sibling that you have to even out and balance out.
Even like I was talking to you and I would say at least 98% of behavioral issues
in our household.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stem from sibling
rivalry.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
If the other person wasn't there, would there be other issues that arise? I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So I'm hearing mixed reviews from parents with bunches of kids too.
Oh, you are?
Well, more so people saying, well, you always hear once you have 3, you're outnumbered. You hear that. And but then you have the people who have like 10 kids and they're like, our lives are harmonious.
And I've heard that once you have 4, then it's actually easier because those older kids start helping. And so.
Do you have to have girls first?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think that the gender thing plays a role in the harmony.
We need a second mother in the home. We don't need 2 fathers who are moody.
There's a lot of people who are pretty against that. There's mixed reviews on that from kids who were raised in those homes.
Which we know somebody who felt like they weren't didn't get to finish out their childhood because they were expected to be another parent.
Right.
And that's a real thing. I mean, it's an anecdotal thing, whatever, but we have evidence from one that says they didn't
but I think it depends on the person. Depends on the personality.
Yeah, but isn't that what we're talking about? But that's what it boils down to for all of them. When it comes to an only child, it's going to boil down to personality. When it comes to having multiple siblings, it's going to come down to personality. There are people with 2 kids who are brothers who they get along more often than they don't. I don't know who those people are.
I wonder if like twins affect it.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I've
never seen a twin fight.
Well, I'm sure you're going to get some comments on that. If you're a twin and if you fight, leave a comment.
My dad was a twin and he fought with his brother bad. They were bad.
Well, then it sounds like you.
So I've heard of it. I
yeah.
just thought of that.
Yeah.
They were fraternal. So.
They weren't identical?
No.
I've seen pictures of them. They look exactly the same.
Nope. They were fraternal twins.
How do you know? If they look the same, how do you know? I've seen a picture.
They don't look the same
picture,
at all.
They look just alike.
No, they don't. And that doesn't matter.
Well, what is just how the egg splits or whatever?
Or fraternal is 2 different eggs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and identical.
Well, then that's how you know.
Well,
because if they look the same.
No, I thought you didn't. I thought you're like, how do you know? Like, well, I just know.
Well, did you see the egg report?
I didn't see the egg report, but they were fraternal twins. I don't know.
Well, I assumed identical because I saw the picture. There's this one picture of your dad and his brother, and they look very similar.
I don't see it.
Really?
But my cousins are identical twins, and they don't look anything alike to me. Michael and Jeffrey?
They look slightly different, which twins do.
No, but even like as young kids, everybody said they couldn't tell them apart.
I never saw them as young kids.
I did not think they looked alike at all.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, well, I had twins in my class in 3rd grade, something like that, and I could always tell them apart easily.
Yeah.
They were definitely identical, but they looked, well, that one's that one and that one's that one.
Did they fight?
No, but they did have different sets of friends.
Interesting.
They didn't have the same friends within the class, but I'd never heard of them fighting.
Yeah.
That much. I was friends with one of them and not friends with the other. I didn't like the other one that much. I mean, he was fine. I didn't have much against him, but we just different personalities totally.
We know an
they
adult.
are individual people.
Yeah.
Apparently, twins are individuals.
Their own people.
They don't share a personality or experience.
You know that feeling when you meet someone and you've known them for quite a long time and then you find out they're a twin and you feel betrayed?
Yeah, that's never happened to me. But
it's never happened to you?
No.
It's happened to me multiple times. So one guy I went to college with, hung out with so frequently. He was a triplet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How'd you not bring that up?
I know. Like,
wow.
You mean rare. That's not your identity?
Yeah.
They went to different colleges, all 3 of them.
I feel like if I were a twin, like identical, I would want to do what they did in The Prestige. Just live one life and then just take breaks and swap out. That's what, I would totally do that.
So back to siblings. I do think that when you have an only child, unless you have a bunch of money, you can provide more opportunities for that kid. I mean, like flying, going places.
Yeah, I mean, your budget gets a lot tighter the more kids you have. That's true.
Christmas presents and whatever, Yeah.
Here's what's funny. I looked up studies about only children versus children with siblings. All of them come out to be inconclusive or refutable. Like one study might say this, but another study says something different. And so, like we're talking about academic success. One study says, well, if they have an only child has a better chance at academic success. And another study says, actually, that's not true. So I couldn't actually find much conclusive stuff that one is not necessarily better than the other in terms of specifics or success. Because it's going to, again, like we said before, it's going to depend on personality traits, how they're parented.
Right. True.
I mean,
it's just so, but having a sibling helps define you. It helps define how you are relationally.
It changes the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. So I think that that's weird that you can't find more studies like that. I do know that.
I think there's just too many variables to come to a good conclusion on what essentially you're looking for. What's better technically? Well, it depends on what you want. Yeah. I mean,
I think one struggle that like only children have that I've heard from people who have only children, they're worried that their kid feels like the universe revolves around them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they have a harder time in relationships because they aren't used to
having
to sacrifice.
Ingrains that into you that you are not the only one here.
Right. I would love to know like divorce rates among only children.
Yeah.
Or even like how many kids they had. We have friends who are both only children and chose not to have kids because they didn't want to give up their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So like that's an interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that I would like to know, but there's just so many people who's studying that.
We can do a poll.
Are you an only child? Did you have children? Are you divorced?
Are you divorced? What's your divorce rate? Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't even know what we're going for here towards a conclusion. I don't even know what.
That's usually how our podcasts
we want
go.
More kids.
We need to know
do we need to go for 4 or 5, or are we good at 3?
If we could have twins next, that might work. I know I've said I don't want twins because that's like intense. That's hard.
Yeah, but you'd love it once you had it.
But that's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Just
fraternal. It's 2 stones.
1 pregnancy.
Yeah.
That seems nice.
Yeah.
Probably more miserable. Harder pregnancy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Lots of stretching and pain.
Okay. Here's one thing that's interesting. If we have a 3rd child, they will, if our kids move out, let's say at 18, like my siblings did, which I'm not going to encourage them to. I want them to figure out stuff that they need to figure out. My house is open to them. If you're listening to this 10 years from now, son, you're welcome here. Whatever. Yeah. Then we would have an only child again for 4 years.
5
years.
6.
5 or 6 years. Holy cow.
Yeah. If we conceived this month, then our youngest son will be 6 when they're born.
Wow.
I know. We keep pushing it off.
That's like starting over.
And I know we've had this conversation before, but we just keep like, should we try this month? I don't know. Let's just do it. Let's wait 1 more month. No, I don't really want to have a baby in February. No.
February. It'll be cold when I have to walk outside.
Birthday parties are hard to, our house isn't that big, so.
Yeah, we're weird.
But right now we're at April. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a good month to.
We have an April baby.
Yeah.
An April 1st baby.
Yeah.
So homeschool kids that are only children.
That's pretty epic.
That's epic.
That is nice.
You miss out. That's when I would start to worry about a little bit about socialization, like because the whole worry about the homeschool. It all depends on how many times you get out to see people, whatever.
Sure.
But like, with our 2 that we have, I mean, they get some socialization with each other. They work out problems.
Right.
They, and so I would be curious if there's any or many homeschoolers out there who are only children.
I have several in my forest friends group.
Really?
Several, yes.
Wow.
But I don't know about like as adults now. That was probably more rare.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I think there's only
I think a lot of people are choosing to have just 1 child. Because of the benefits to the child, especially in homeschooling, you can like fully allow them to explore and, homeschooling is tricky with multiple children because you have multiple different ages. I try to do things where Alder can sit in my lap, but he's not getting that one-on-one direction, especially right now.
He's not reading Chaucer yet. So,
but I mean, I think. And there are challenges, like sometimes he's wallering me or making too much noise or distracting Oaks.
Is it Waller or Wallow?
I have always said wallering. Waller.
Is it
it's wallering me?
Is that like the Kentucky version of wallow? Is wallow a word?
Or is it waller?
I don't know.
He's wallering me all the time.
I guess wallow isn't a word.
And when he was a baby and I was like just starting with Oaks, man, there were some like just tough times where it's like, okay, the only time we can get anything done is when Alder's napping. And he gave that up really quick. And I started way too early with our older son anyway.
Yeah.
So ultimately on our trip, we ended up on the way home turning on a movie for peace.
We did.
It was their Friday movie. So
it was their Friday movie.
It worked out.
Yeah.
But I felt like, oh, okay.
This is
the screen reliance issue because they have multiple children that are fighting and they're losing it.
You don't fight when you're sitting there watching Cocomelon.
They didn't watch Cocomelon. They watched Wonka on the way home.
Yeah.
But it was the most glorious 2 hours.
It was pretty nice.
Of silence.
I could handle our kids watching screens 10 hours a day. I really could. I think it'd be great. I mean, they would be robots or something when they grew up, but
I think
zombies.
What happens, one thing that's bad is when they are a heavily screen reliant family and then like a device doesn't get charged. Like, what a nightmare.
You can plug it in. Oh. Can you turn it on?
No, please? I could definitely see where that can become a crutch.
Yeah.
We've just been diligent in not making it one.
I just really hope that, which I fully anticipate, I can't wait till both of our kids are reading long books and they just can't stop loving reading long books because that turns into hours. If it's anything like I was when I was a kid, it turns into, I'm serious, hours in the afternoon just reading. And it's like, that's your screen time? You got it, buddy.
Screen time?
Yeah, in your mind.
It's not screen time at all, Jason.
When I read, it's a movie in my mind. Yeah. It is screen time. I get all the screen time every night before I go to bed. I'm reading. But it's slow. I'm a slow reader, so the movie's going slow motion. And he punched him in the jaw.
I asked you to read one of my speeches that I'm going to be giving the Modern Homestead Conference. So if you're in the Northwest and you want to join me,
if you want to travel to the Northwest,
for sure, I'm traveling there. So if you want to meet me there, it's going to be a blast. Be sure you check that out. Jason will link it in the comments. But
where was description.
The description. Where was I going with that?
Reading slowly.
Yeah. What was I thinking?
I was reading your speech.
Oh, I asked Jason to read my speech. It's like a 45-minute speech. And he said, I don't have 45 minutes to read this right now. And I'm like, okay, but when you're reading in your head, it should be a little faster.
No, I read as you speak. I read at the speed of speech. So audiobooks make sense to me. I don't listen to audiobooks on 1.2 or 1.5 speed.
I listen to them on double speed sometimes.
Seriously?
It's a little miserable, but yeah.
Like, no, I can't do that.
It's so slow.
Sometimes I'm
can't
like
handle it.
0.75.
No.
Let's slow it down a little bit. You're talking a little too fast.
No.
No,
Is that why you married me? Because I am a slow talker, but I'm not a slow reader.
I can understand her when she talks. I like what she has to say. No, I do listen at one.
Yeah.
Just regular speed.
That
usually.
Is so slow.
Occasionally there's a book where I'm like, okay, what are you doing? And I would put it on 1.2. I will not go to 1.5. I can't take it. It's too unnatural.
Yeah, you are weird about the speeding up of a voice. I've asked you to speed up my stories before, just like slightly.
No, I hear
Instagram stories, and you're like, I cannot stand.
I hate the sound. It's a little bit of a synthetic sound.
I can hear it when someone's doing it way too much, but if you would just speed me up 0.5.
See, so this comes from when I was doing marketing for Mr. Cool. There's this guy who was helping us with this commercial, and he's like, you can speed up your speech by 0.7% or what, I don't know what the percentage is, and you can't tell. And then I see their finished video, and I'm like, this sounds horrible because you sped it up and it sounds fake. You can tell. It's awful. That's what I think, and I think is right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening.
If you are a sibling or an only child, you should leave a review. And in your review, give us 5 stars and tell us how much you love the show.
Sounds good.
And if you're not either of those things, leave a comment.
You are either of those things. I mean, sometimes it gets muddled. Some people have half step, divorced step. Like that is one area that we didn't even explore is all these like blended families. That would be so interesting. Suddenly you have a sister when you're 12 years old and you never had one before,
it happens. Yeah, it happens. I had one when I was 12. I'm the youngest.
Have a sister. I did not. I always wanted a sister. Didn't have one. And I think it has affected me because I don't really feel like I fit in with girls.
Yeah, I have a brother and a sister, and I don't fit in with anybody.
Except our podcast.
Except for you guys who left a review.
Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Bye,
everyone. You're all my brothers and sisters.
We are family.
Give up to the lyrics.